वो जिसके लिए महफिल कौनैन सजी है, फिरदौस से बरी जिसके वसीले से बनी है, वो हाशमी मक्की मदनीउल अरबी है। वो मेरा नबी मेरा नबी मेरा नबी है। वो मेरा नबी मेरा नबी मेरा नबी है।
Pietermaritzburg is a former colonial city, which soon after the advent of a democratic dispensation was transformed into an African city. At the heart of this transition stood a humble giant, Omar Latiff. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, the former High Commissioner of India to South Africa, in his tribute said that Omar represented the surge of change that was sweeping over his country, and also that of hope for a great concord between the peoples who constituted the new rainbow nation. He was a lateral thinker and a world-class leader. He presided over an African dream. His legacy lies in his humanism, which permeated his life as a chartered accountant, an associate professor in taxation at the University of Natal, and as a Muslim. His values drew him to the Freedom Charter and to his political home, which was the African National Congress. He was the symbol of good governance and austerity. His humor transcended all his wonderful qualities, and his smile warmed the hearts of all he came into contact with. He believed that ultimately he would merge back into the divine, and that his purpose in the world was to replicate his Quranic teachings into his actions. Omar was first a humanist who embraced God's creation as a means to embrace God. He had a universal admiration for the human spirit. Like Rumi, he believed that the divine power touched every soul. Ultimately, Islam touched his heart to weave the magic of his divine love to caress and to behold a diverse nation. Non-discrimination stood at the heart of his Islamic belief, and he lived this value in serving others. Spiritually, he embraced all religions and all the people of South Africa. He found inspiration in Maulana Rashid Goga, just as he was touched by Pope Francis and the Dalai Lama. He was a particle of the divine, and saw the world through the lens of his love, especially for his family and his fellow countrymen. He stood shoulder to shoulder with all men and women, regardless of race, caste, and creed. It was not surprising then to see grown men of all races cry so freely at his funeral. Omar was a father, a husband, and a provider. His amanat, or gift, was that his wife and his children fulfilled his duties on his behalf to his extended family, friends, and to the community. His home was open to his extended family, and many nephews and a niece lived with him, and have become accomplished professionals in their own right. As Africanists, both he and his wife Roshan hosted 2 children of the former Nigerian Minister of Water Affairs at his home for 5 years. Omar became a chief to their village in Nigeria. A Spanish student also sought refuge in his home. Roshan continues to be the rock of selfless support.
Yes, I feel Umar's presence all over. Sometimes I visualize just the way he passed so peacefully. And I feel that's the way he wanted us to feel and to see him around. So I just feel that his presence is here continuously. And especially after the morning prayer, I just speak to the Almighty and I say that please help you help us, and let Umar guide us and all the decisions that we take continuously about the children writing exams, the boys wanting a few things answered by me or something, and I just sort of close my eyes and I call and I just say please guide me to guide the children and people around, colleagues or whoever needs a bit of guidance, or myself for that matter. And I feel that he's around.
Omar was the first mayor of the first democratically elected Pietermaritzburg Council. He steered the transition of an apartheid city into a successful post-democratic city rather seamlessly. His project management and his financial acumen established Pietermaritzburg as a winning city. He was a son of the city, and he served like only a dutiful son can. Undoubtedly, the highlight of his tenure as mayor was the awarding of the freedom of the city upon President Nelson Mandela, and posthumously to Mahatma Gandhi on 25th April 1997. In concluding his motivation speech, Mayor Latiff said, "We think it entirely appropriate that here, where your freedom temporarily came to an end, your freedom should be amplified by this award. We are deeply honored and immensely proud that from this day forth, you are Nelson Mandela, Freeman of Pietermaritzburg, Msunduzi." Thereafter, on the platform of the Pietermaritzburg railway station, Mayor Latiff invited President Mandela to honor our city by conferring freedom of the city posthumously upon Mahatma Gandhi.
And he said to me, Madam Mayoress, you have a great man at your side. He's a great leader, and from the world's population, there's only 10% that have leadership qualities. So you have to understand that as a leader, Mayor Latiff is going to be borrowed.
Omar served on the board of the Development Bank of Southern Africa, and here too he was a soldier of development. Omar was a board member of the South African Social Services Agency and the South African National Space Agency. He was a keen learner. He absorbed concepts beyond his field of expertise and understood those concepts better than the experts. 2 days after his funeral, he received a postgraduate certificate on risk management from UNISA. He was a lifelong student, and many other boards sought the services of this intellectual but humble giant. He was the father of business unity in the city, being the chief driver in bringing together the Afrikaanse Sakkerkamer, the Pietermaritzburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Midlands Black Business Caucus, thus laying the foundation for the Pietermaritzburg Chamber of Commerce. As the former chairman of Umgeni Water Board, he championed the delivery of water to unserviced communities, and he was a crusader for the conservation of water. He saw water as a valuable resource and challenged even his family to save this resource. He often implored people to understand the value of saving water.
The discussion is centered around water these days, and many years ago, and as recent, Omar spoke, passionately about water and how one has to look after this natural resource of water, because he says that in the years to come, people must watch that the war is not going to be about oil. It's going to be nations fighting over water.
Prior to becoming mayor, Omar Latiff cut his teeth in serving the disenfranchised community of the northern areas of Pietermaritzburg through the civic movement of the Pietermaritzburg Combined Residents and Ratepayers Association. Together with comrades Chota Motala, C.D. Mudli, the late A.S. Chetty, Yunus Karim, Yusuf Bamji, Vasu Chetty, Babu Baiju, David Gengan, Kevin Perumal and others, the ratepayers of the northern areas embarked on a successful mass march and rates boycott, which culminated in a group areas rebate. Comrade Omar was a disciplined cadre of the African National Congress. He deplored factionalism and predicted early in the days of the transition that factionalism and corruption will emerge as the biggest threat to the ANC. To his very last days, Comrade Omar expressed his love for the ANC and was committed to helping the organization of Mandela and Tambo to eradicate poverty and to promote the right balance between the developmental state and the growth of the South African economy. Comrade Omar was not an armchair critic. He was an activist of positive change through effective leadership and selfless commitment. He was the product of the liberation movement.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must the white dove sail before before she sleeps in the sand. How many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
Omar was a partner and director of MSGM Masuku, Gina and LMD Chartered Accountants before both companies were acquired by PricewaterhouseCoopers. He was duly appointed as a senior partner at PwC until his retirement. Omar was a business activist and helped many companies in their growth trajectories. In 1999, Omar played an instrumental role in supporting the launch of the Public Eye newspaper. He served as a co-director with the company's founder, Ricardo Jacobs, until 2006. Today, Public Eye has grown into Capital Newspapers, which publishes nearly 15 newspapers around KwaZulu-Natal and is an associate company of a JSE-listed publishing group. Latiff's legacy lives on in this group's progressive editorial stance. He was a trusted elder, and the business community remain endeared to his integrity and to his humility. Omar was an ardent cricket fan, and in his younger days played cricket for the young Italians. He was also a keen golfer, and was endeared to his golfing mates and to a group of comrades with whom he played tunny and pool. On his last day, before he lapsed into a coma, he played golf with his friends and had his final game of pool before sitting around a table and chatting to his comrades about the state of the economy. It was a precious moment.
Does anybody know the final time? And I just panicked and I screamed for my daughter, and we asked for, to get the doctors. And in his final moments, it was absolutely peaceful. And his doctor, that is his best friend, and I were in the room, and my daughter was just outside. And he's saying, I don't want to go to the doctor, just Roshan, don't panic. Babu, I don't want to go to the doctor. And you could actually feel that Umar was ready, and that Naat came to my mind, that Tera Nabi, Mera Nabi, and he was just ready. He was just ready to leave this world, and he departed as peacefully as anybody would want to depart this world, as a hero.